Welcome back. Cam Show on Rogue Media Sports Network. Matt Barry of the Bruins Benders Podcast joining, as he always does, on Thursdays. And Matt, I saw the AM lines this morning for tonight's game against Seattle. Jeremy Swayman still listed as goalie number one. Sounds like he'll get another start. And it reminds me of that episode of The Simpsons where Bart and Nelson and Milhouse and Martin are on that road trip and they keep annoying the car next to them. And the dad is like, that's it. I'm turning this car around back to Winnipeg. That's going to be the Joe Sacco punishment line. Is this punishment to just keep putting Swayman out there? I mean, it's okay, but is it punishment?
It makes you wonder, doesn't it, that they're saying, hey, you fought us for all this money, then you're the guy come hell or high water. Like, that's it. Like, if you're going to give up 8, you're going back out there again. I'm really surprised he's going back out there, especially where Korpisalo's played okay. Like, fine. So I'm really surprised they haven't gone tandem to get him right, meaning Swayman. And I think it really just seems like it's just like this dig to him. Like, you're going to figure it out because we're paying you a lot of money.
It felt like if it was last year before he became an RFA, like there was going to be a Patrick Waugh moment because we've seen him now, gave up 7 against Dallas, all 7. And was he in that Carolina game? I think that was him as well.
That was him as well.
7 there and 8 the other night against Winnipeg without getting pulled once. It like for as much as the Bruins are going to be, classy and Marchand's going to say, we don't talk about the contracts and stuff, and that's not a dig or whatever. It has to feel like that at some point of like, and maybe it's a message to everyone, of like, hey, we're not going to just pull the goalie to light a fire under your ass. You guys are going to have to light a fire under your own asses because right now they're bullies, man. They beat up on the weak and they don't just lose to good teams. They get their shit pummeled by good teams. Like this has happened 3 or 4 times this year. Anytime they play someone in a playoff position, not only are they not going to beat them, but they're going to get their shit rocked.
Yeah, this is the alarming thing, right? I mean, it's not that they're losing in shootouts or they're losing 1-goal games or just can't get over the hump. They're getting killed. Like they're getting murdered by these really good teams, and they're beating the poor teams, which you have to do. And I'll tell you what, that's going to be the saving grace. That's what's going to get them into the playoffs is that there's enough bad teams to beat, and they're kind of in the middle. They're slightly better than the bad, and they're not nearly as good as the good. So it's just going to get them to skate right in because the people behind them, the teams behind them are, Ottawa and Detroit. And, it's just those teams aren't going to be as good as they are as long as the Bruins stay away from injury and don't completely collapse. I think they're still going to make the playoffs, but it's just not going to be pretty come playoff time because they can't even compete in a game, never mind beat a team four times in a series.
And it's a hell of a place to be in. I mean, we talked about it going into this year. Even when the Bruins were starting off so poorly, it was like, well, someone's still going to need to step up in the division, whether it be, Ottawa, Detroit, Buffalo. And there was, some hope for those teams, those young teams, Montreal, and these 2 steps up, but young teams, and they have not taken that step. So it's like, all right, I guess we got to send the Bruins back out there into the postseason. That's what it feels like. And it's, it's a weird place to be. It is a weird place
stuck in mediocrity. I mean, that's what they're kind of stuck. They don't have high draft picks. They still don't have a second round pick this year. They're still going to pick in the 20s. There's just not much there. There's the prospects pool is 32nd in the league or close to it.
If they so 33rd, I think they would. Yeah.
I don't know what they can do. I mean, anything short of throwing the bag at Jack Eichel or something is, if he's even available, is really all they can hope for.
Let's talk about that. So Eichel is going to be a free agent, UFA, full on after next season. And obviously, with how much Vegas has gone over the cap and needed to circumnavigate that, like they're already running into some problems, with Stone leaving and all that. So is there a possibility that anyone is going to have a shot at Jack Eichel this summer? And if so, is there any excuse for the Bruins not to just do anything in their power to get him?
Yeah, I mean, it would take some combination of McAvoy, Pasternak, Swayman, although Swayman's not commodity right now. So really, you have two guys that really can even come close to bringing value in that kind of trade.
Coyle, Frederick in a second. You don't think that's gonna?
Yeah, Freddie, Geeky, and who else can you throw? Max Jones,
Merkulov. Yeah. Throw him in there.
What did Monty used to say? Quality over quantity.
Yeah, that's baby.
Quality, I think. So they don't really have much there. I mean, it'd have to be, Lowry and Patra and all like that. And I don't even think that's enough, to be honest. So they're really in trouble when it comes to that, center position, goal scoring, trying to find really good offensive players. Mikko Rantanen is not even a center. Is going to ask for $14 million. Kirill Kaprizov is going to ask for $13-14 million. He's not a center. Like anybody who creates any type of really elite offense is just high priced or not available.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's starting to look like in the NFL, quarterbacks and left tackles. They don't get to market. They don't get to free agency.
No.
And if that did happen, like let's just play it out. I don't think that he will get to that UFA, but if he does, the salary cap's up. I'll give Eichel $15 million. I don't care, man. Like he's still taking.
Yeah, and at that point, it's going to take that. Like it's going to take that. And yes, I would. I mean, I would do everything you can to get in that range where you could give him that money because that's what you need. I mean, you need a top line center and they don't have it. So that's going to make them like the 80s, back in the 80s when they were just not quite good enough.
Just get
every single year. And that's what they're going to be. And, that's too bad. But right now, and look, Sweeney would have done something about it if he, this past offseason, if he could. He even knows that they're really in a bind. I mean, he threw all that money at Elias Lindholm, who is going to maybe get 40 points this year again. I mean, that's what we thought, though. Like, that's what we thought. My podcast partner had said it in the offseason, like, don't throw money at that guy because he's closer to 40 points than he is to 80 points. And that's the truth,
And to go off that, Elias Lindholm, 13 points this year. Jake DeBrusk, 13 goals this year.
Well, here's the other thing about DeBrusk. I'll say this about DeBrusk.
I was ready to move on from DeBrusk. I will say, I was ready to be done.
I don't care that they don't have DeBrusk. I don't. And I think that people automatically saying that is kind of lazy. Like I don't care about that thing because let's be honest. He would be a major contributor to this mess right now because of just the nature of him and what's happened in the history with him and the team. Like he'd be part of the issue. Yeah. Trust me. Yeah. But they didn't do anything to replace him. Like that's
the problem.
That's what's awful,
Yeah, and he's a 50-point guy. So it's not like he's going to be a point a game guy. Like he's not going to be that.
No, he's a half a point a game guy, and that's fine. And he's a decent two-way player, and he's reliable, I guess, in a sense. But
I would think he'd help out your special teams a little bit.
Oh yes, well, see, that's a good point. Is that
you do have many more holes than that.
The penalty kill has taken on some real big hits with Krejci. Even Krejci was a penalty killer. Yeah. Bergeron, even Derek Forbort. I mean, they've changed a lot of personnel there, and I think they're starting to figure it out a little bit. They've been better there, but that took some time, and they weren't as good killing penalties. And of course, their power play is dog shit on a stick. So
it's so bad, man. Bad. I thought last year. Like this right now, this mediocrity is reminding me of the end of the Red Wings playoff streak, where they were clearly just trying to make the playoffs just to keep that going. And that was the only thing they really cared about. And then everyone kind of aged out and they finally had to blow it up. And we're in year 10 of the rebuild in Detroit. So I remember last year seeing that Capitals team get into the playoffs. And I was like, this might be like the worst playoff team I've ever seen, like just skill wise. Like obviously they had Ovechkin and Oshie, but way in the twilight, right? And they got crushed by the Rangers. And I'm like, that's what the Bruins are going to be this year. They're just as talented.
Yeah, I see them going into a series with Toronto and getting swept. I think because Toronto will be looking for blood. They'd be hungry as all heck. And I think that any type of series, they're going to play either Toronto or Florida. Like that's how the league is designed the thing. So it's either going to be one of those two teams. And it's just,
Oh my
I mean,
God.
what do you do? I mean,
Can we defer the option? I mean,
not even getting the goaltending to steal your games now. That was the case the last couple of years.
mhm.
Even when they didn't show up, their goaltending stole games. They haven't done that this year at all. In fact, they've lost games for them.
Yeah.
So, right now they're just sort of, and look, in a way, I kind of think that this is good for them long term because they need a new coach, they need a new GM, they need a whole new outlook. Like
New
they
everything.
can't keep doing this. They
Yeah.
can't, you know.
It needs to be like a total organizational
Hmm.
strip down. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, if we're being honest, it needs
yeah.
to be a strip down. They need a new identity. They need a new voice at the top.
Hmm.
And as we've talked about in the past, it's like if they make the playoffs, I don't even know if that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, I just think that's what they care about.
The Jacobs are not typically about that. They like to keep it in house. They like to keep it private. They like to keep it close to the vest. They don't, I don't see them going out and getting XYZ who are completely outside of the organization. They like to keep it a little bit incestuous.
Mhm.
And that's just kind of what they do, So,
And when we look at Sweeney, we talked about this in the summer. Like, I'm not ready to say like Sweeney's tenure has just been all terrible, but he's had 2 summers where he could spend money,
mhm.
and it's netted you David Backes, the late Jimmy Hayes, Matt Bolesky, Nikita Zadorov, Elias Lindholm, and Jeremy Swayman.
Yeah.
And like, they all suck. Like, they all suck.
Yeah.
I mean, Zadorov and Lindholm are just awful. And I think Lindholm's just hurting them at this point, not even washing it out. Like, and Swayman, for as much as we were kind of I was defending him, and a lot of Bruins fans were that first month of the season because everything else looked like such a mess. It's like, no, he sucks too. Like, if we're being honest, he is. And I look at the other end in that Winnipeg game the other night. They have the best fucking goalie in the league, and he's getting paid what, 7.5, less than 8 a year. And I got this guy bitching and moaning all fucking summer to get 8.25, and he's nowhere close to Hellebuck. Like, nowhere close.
Doesn't it seem like the biggest, like, just like hoodwinked the team, like just the biggest scam in the world, like that he kind of rode the hot hand a bit, although he was playing half the time, but he did play well, and he was young, and he had the cachet and all this stuff, and you know how that happens, like the momentum builds, and then, but he hasn't really shown that he can do it full time, that he can do it, take you on a playoff run. He hasn't shown any of that, but you're kind of forecasting that, and now it just seems like the biggest scam and fraud known to man. And now what? Like, now what?
Yeah,
so, I'll be honest with you. I will guarantee you that you will hear murmurings about them trying to get rid of him in the offseason. Guaranteed.
If anyone will take him.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You're going to be selling at 30 cents on the dollar.
Yeah, and it's, I don't know about you. I think that's not a bad move, even if he does turn out to be a good goaltender again. Right. But like, again, when you're talking about needing to rebuild this thing, having a goalie at 8.25, like, that's not helping anybody rebuild anything.
And I'll tell you, Sweeney doesn't necessarily ever admit mistakes. That would be admitting a mistake. And you know what? A good GM would be like, that's a mistake. We're going to get rid of it. And I don't think that's going to happen. So they're really in stuck in the mud mode.
Oh, it sucks.
Yeah, it's hard. Like, they need a miracle. They need someone to get to market and want to come. Or they need a team to, like, just be done with a guy like a Pierre-Luc Dubois was, or Patrick Laine, like, just be done with a guy and let's get rid of him for 50 cents on the dollar. They need that thing. And those two things are really hard to come by.
When does Tage Thompson get a misdiagnosed injury in Buffalo?
I know.
The way Eichel did. I mean, at some point, maybe. It's going to take that and, like, hitting in the mid-teens, early 20s of the draft.
I mean, for crying out loud, I'd take Alex Tuck right now. I'd take anybody.
That'd be nice.
There's a bunch of guys I would take that are, and that's why I had said, try to go sign Chandler Stevenson or Jake Gensel or someone else who wouldn't be as, well, Gensel was as expensive, but he scores 40 goals. Like, the
Gensel thing looks better by the day, Matt. It looks better by the fucking day.
It does. I mean,
it was great in the summer, and it looks better now.
Don't chase the position. Get the guy who's proven goal scorer first, and then you can put Zacha in between Gensel and Pasternak and let it ride. Like they'll produce points just by mistake. But no, they chase the position. They chase a guy who's slightly below what his value really should be. And now this is what you have. Like, you have a guy who's not what you need him to be. Like, Elias Lindholm was a perfectly fine player, but in like that second to third line center role, not first line. He's not Patrice Bergeron. And the organization was telling you, trying to convince you that he was Bergeron Jr. It's not even close.
That's insulting.
It is. It's insulting the Bergeron. It's not even close.
And our intelligence.
Yes. And
it's so bad.
It's not the first time that our intelligence has been.
No. In good times and in bad, I will say the Bruins do. They will insult our intelligence. They're not above that. Sure. It's almost like they need Billy Bean here.
Yeah, I know it.
Chase the production, chase the stats, put him wherever the fuck you want on the ice. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just, it's incredible. And Lord only knows what'll happen if, Sacco does keep this thing on the rails and they get in the playoffs and it's another year of Neely and Sweeney. Like, who the hell knows what their next.
Well, we said before, like, they could lose these 5 games on this trip. They could absolutely lose all 5. And if they do, I really need to see what happens then, because it's possible. The Seattle, Calgary, Vancouver, Edmonton, they can lose them all. And, if they do, what happens then?
Yeah, the Western Canada teams are all better than you.
They're all better.
Seattle, toss-up, whatever. But you could lose any given night. You lost there last year.
I'd pick Seattle right now over you.
Yeah? Oh, this sucks, man.
Yeah.
It's breaking me down here.
But, who knows?
Anyway.
Oh, well.
Anyway. All right, I guess then that will lead me into my last question here. Do you see, like, you talk about if they lose the rest of these games, we could see something, but just you having watched the Bruins for decades now, do you expect to see anything major happen with this team before the season ends?
Yes, I do. I think that at the deadline, someone, by the grace of God, will be exited from the actual current roster. I would bet it would be Frederick, but maybe it's somebody else.
But he one-punched that guy who's like never fought in his career. That was great.
He had 6 penalty minutes in his entire NHL career. Not that he didn't fight. He didn't touch a guy.
A guy that Don Cherry would just rip up and down for being weak-ass Euro trash. Yeah, you one-punched that guy. Congrats.
One-punched that guy. Gave him a concussion, a bloody head, and everything else. That was almost embarrassing for Frederick.
Yeah, and then Zadorov and Kastelik have to end up fighting real guys, which, that's what they're here for, whatever.
Well,
but
you know what?
It's like you throw them into that.
Like, Kastelik does what Frederick can do. So, see you later, dude. That's it. Like, that's it. So, I think, yes. I think, because it's not going to get better. And I think that, yes, they'll be floundering. They'll need to do something because, look, they're not completely stupid. They know what's behind them in the standings. They know they just need a little bump to guarantee the playoff spot. And that's really what they want. Like, that saves jobs for them. Wow. So I think that they'll see that and try to provide a little bit of a bump, and someone will go. And I think it's going to be Frederick. I do. I
wouldn't mind that. Matt Barry, the Bruins Benders Podcast on the Camp Show every Thursday. New episode of the pod out today.
Out today.
Apple Podcasts, Inside the Rink YouTube, and plus you guys
late night. We're going late
night tonight. Little Bruins Benders after dark.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
You're gonna have to stay up for this.
Take a nap.
Oh man. Well, we'll be tuning in, and we will have the full report from you next Thursday. Matt, really appreciate the time.
Okay, buddy.
We are Rogue Media Sports.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. And if you like this video, be sure to give us a like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel a ton. You can follow me on Twitter here for some more outrageous Boston sports takes coming to you every weekday at noon Eastern time. And then after that, wherever you get your podcasts.
We are Rogue Media Sports.